that's the verse, right? 3.
Yeah.
So, so we will discuss from Bhagavatam today. We'll do a little different because we're in this situation, so we can have more like a discussion. But today we're reading from the 5th canto, chapter number 5, entitled Lord Rishabhadev's Teaching to His Sons. Today we're reading from text number 3. And before we read, just to share with you that there are perhaps 3 chapters in the Bhagavatam which are the chapters from which Srila Prabhupada quoted the most number of verses. Anyone know what those chapters are? This is one of them, that's what I'm saying. So definitely this is one of the chapters. This chapter, chapter number 5 of the 5th canto, Srila Prabhupada quoted many times verses from this chapter. It's a very important chapter. The other chapter that's really important,
second chapter of the first canto.
Yeah, second chapter of the first canto, Divinity and Divine Service. Srila Prabhupada quoted many verses. And the third one? Yeah, Prahlad, very good. Teachings of Prahlad in the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada quoted many verses. So it's an extremely important chapter. So I'll just read the text number 3. I'll just read the Sanskrit and then the English, and then we'll have a discussion. Yevarnayi se kritasam soradartha jane sudeham bharavartikeshu griheshu jayat majaratmatasu na priti yukta yavadarthascha loke. Okay, so I'll just read the English translation and then the purport. So translation. So this is Lord Rishabhadev, who is teaching his sons all spiritual philosophy. Those who are interested in reviving Krishna consciousness and increasing their love of God do not like to do anything that is not related to Krishna. They are not interested in mingling with people who are busy maintaining their bodies, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. They are not attached to their homes, although they may be householders, nor are they attached to wives, children, friends, or wealth. At the same time, they are not indifferent to the execution of their duties. Such people are interested in collecting only enough money to keep the body and soul together. Whether he is an impersonalist or a devotee, one who is actually interested in advancing spiritually should not mingle with those who are simply interested in maintaining the body by means of so-called advancement of civilization. Those who are interested in spiritual life should not be attached to homely comforts in the company of wife, children, friends, and so forth. Even if one is a grihastha and has to earn his livelihood, he should be satisfied by collecting only enough money to maintain body and soul together. One should not have more than that, nor less than that. As indicated herein, a householder should endeavor to earn money for the execution of bhakti yoga, shravanam, kirtanam, vishnu, smaranam, padasevanam, archanam, vandanam, dasyam, sakyamatma, nivedanam. A householder should lead such a life that he gets full opportunity to hear and chant. He should worship the deity at home, observe festivals, invite friends in, and give them prasad. A householder should earn money for this purpose and not for sense gratification. Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Gyana Timananda Sigyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vancha Kalpataru Yascha Kripa Sindhu Videvacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna different things are given in this verse that Rishabdev is teaching about how we can live progressive spiritual lives. I'm going to pick out one major point from here that I think is interesting to discuss. In the translation, Rishabdev says, people interested in reviving their spiritual consciousness are not interested in mingling or associating or spending time with people who are busy maintaining their bodies, eating, sleeping, mating and defending. So this is very, very interesting, I think. One of the major things that's often given within the scriptures is that if one wants to advance in spiritual life, then they have to disassociate themselves from material association. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita it said, Asat Sangha Tyaga E Vaishnavachar, that the very characteristic Vaishnavachar, the symptom of someone who is a Vaishnav, Asat Sangha Tyag, they give up the association of materialistic people. In the Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami is explaining what is favourable to devotional service and what is unfavourable. And it's interesting, he says what is favourable is if you give up the association of non-devotees, and he says what is unfavourable is if you associate with non-devotees. So he basically says the same thing twice. In one sense, he didn't need to say it twice. Once you've said that it's favourable to give up the association of non-devotees, why do you then again need to say that associating with non-devotees is not favourable? It's like redundant. But he's stressing it because it's such an important point. It even goes to the extent where in the scriptures there's a statement which says it would be more beneficial to be in a cage of burning fire than to associate with non-devotees. So this is very, very interesting. Why is there such an emphasis on not associating with non-devotees? And this is particularly interesting because well, let me tell you why this is particularly interesting. When I joined the movement, I was coming to Krishna consciousness, then I was at university, and then at one point I decided I would live in an ashram. I would try to live as a monk. So I went to India and I joined an ashram in India, in Mumbai, at the age of 21. I was living there in Chowpatty. And I distinctly remember one morning in the class as the speaker was speaking like this, I had this moment where I just thought to myself, oh my God, have I joined a cult? I just had this real moment of like crisis. Like I was looking at myself, I was looking at everyone around me, I was looking at the time, and I was like, have I just joined a cult? Have I just been brainwashed? Anyway, after a few minutes I was okay again. But it was interesting. And then later on what I did is I went onto the internet and I looked at what are the symptoms that you have joined a cult. So I'm going to tell you the 10 signs that you should be worried about. Because if these 10 signs are there, it means you maybe, just maybe, you've joined a cult. So ask yourself whether any of these apply to you. I'm going to link it back to the verse in a minute. The first sign that you've joined a cult, they encourage you to follow a single charismatic leader. You think of a single charismatic leader that you follow. Point number 2. They encourage you to have strong faith and belief. Krishna does say in Bhagavad Gita, Agyascha Shradhanascha Samsayatma Vinashyati. Krishna says, for the doubting soul there is happiness neither in this life nor the next. You have to have strong faith. Okay. 2 out of 2 maybe. Point number 3, that you've joined the cult. Sham Govind. They encourage you to repeatedly recite an affirmation. Okay, number 4. They discourage you from questioning or criticizing anyone in the cult. Vaishnava Parad is very bad. Interesting, huh? Number 5. The cult group speaks very badly about the outside world. Sometimes see some negative comments about non-devotees. Number 6. 6th sign that you've joined a cult. The group makes you feel very guilty about certain things. You sometimes feel guilt after being in the Krishna consciousness movement. Number 7. The group uses systematic thought reform and changes your philosophy. Number 8. The group performs secret rites. Number 9. The group weakens your physical and mental capacities. For example, by fasting. And the 10th one is the one that's relevant today. The group strongly discourages you from associating with those outside the cult. Now these are apparently the 10 signs that we've joined the cult. So what do you think? Have we joined the cult?
Looks like it.
How would you respond to someone who accuses us that we are in a cult because we do these 10 things? How would you respond to them?
Well, I would say they're also in a cult.
Exactly.
But they're not aware.
Exactly. Now we could look at the Krishna consciousness movement and say, oh yeah, all of these things, they apply to us. But actually if you turn it around and you look at people in the world, if you look at, what people are doing in the world, the communities they have, the groups that they form, they're all actually doing the same thing. Don't people have single charismatic authorities that they follow out there? People have role models, idols, people that they follow, whether it's on social media, who, every single word is like, I remember when I was young, people used to go to Michael Jackson concerts. Hare Krishna. You haven't joined the cult, don't worry. You lost one. Just go to Michael Jackson concerts, and they used to faint to try and get one piece of his hair, so he used to cry and how much people also follow charismatic authorities out there. People encourage you to have strong belief in material life, isn't it? A strong belief that if you get this job, if you earn this amount of money, if you achieve these things in your life, then you'll be happy. Repeatedly recite affirmations. Yeah, they may not chant a mantra, but they sing certain songs. Everyone's singing the same songs about the same things. If you look at the lyrics of songs over the ages of generations, they don't actually talk about that different things. They're actually talking about the same things. It's just, again, an affirmation. So if you look at all of these things, then actually you can see that that everyone's part of a cult. It just depends what kind of philosophy you're going to ascribe to. But one very, very important thing that they say about a cult is that they discourage you from associating with people outside the cult. And so, even you find this in for material people. For example, I don't know how many of you know the story of the Buddha, but the Buddha, he grew up actually in a royal family, Siddhartha. He grew up in a royal family, and his father was very, very scared that not to want to expose him to anything that would make him question life. And so for his whole life practically, Buddha was confined within the four walls of the palace. But then it said that on a particular day he ventured out of the palace somehow. He left the palace and he met 4 heavenly messengers. And you know who the 4 heavenly messengers were? First, as he was walking in the kingdom, he saw a diseased person. And he immediately, because he had been in the 4 walls of the palace and his father had protected him from seeing anything in the world, he had never seen a diseased person. So immediately when he saw a diseased person, he thought to himself, oh my God, this is what's going to happen to me? This is what happens to everyone? So immediately that started making him question life. And then he went a little further, and then he saw an old person. He thought, oh my God, I've never seen an old person, because they always kept all these people. He goes, my God, we all eventually become old. We learn, you lose all our capacities. That made him question more. And then he went a little further, and you know the 3rd heavenly messenger? Who it was? It was a corpse, a dead body. He thought, oh my God, I'm going to die. One day I'm going to have to leave everything behind. And then he walked a little further, and the 4th heavenly messenger, is said, was an ascetic, a yogi, someone who was meditating. And then he realized, oh, this person is meditating so that they can achieve a type of spirituality which helps them to go beyond disease, beyond old age, beyond death. And so he realized, this is what I have to do in my life. And then he went into meditation, and then he attained his spiritual realization. So this is very, very interesting that his father was trying to protect him from seeing anyone or associating with anything that would make him question life. Because as soon as people see all of these things, then it makes them question everything that they're doing in their existence. So you see, even in material life, that spiritual teachings, things that make you question, things that make you challenge, or people that make you question or challenge, the material world doesn't give them prominence, doesn't give them a chance to speak very, very loudly. Even in Russia, when the Iron Curtain was there, and they were very concerned about what messages were coming in, they later on said that the 3 biggest threats to Russia, you know what the 3 biggest threats to Russia, they said were, number 1, rock and roll. I think the second one they said was American culture, and the third one is the Hare Krishnas. So these are the 3 biggest threats to our communist outlook on life. In other words, the Iron Curtain was there. There was a curtain because they were trying to stop anything from coming in. So whether it's material life or whether it's spiritual people, there's always a sense in which we create some kind of boundary or some kind of barrier. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. In spiritual life, we do it because it helps us to grow. Just like when there is an endangered species, then what they do is they create something called a sanctuary. In fact, our center years ago in New York, now it's called the Bhakti Center, but before it was called the Bhakti Center, they actually called it the sanctuary. Because the idea is that when there is, like for example, a bird that's an endangered species, then what they do is they bring all of those birds together, and then they create a very safe environment where they won't be attacked, and then those birds breed to increase the... So of course it's not that we're doing that, bring everyone together to make them breed. It's not like... But it is like that in another sense, that we're all coming together in a safe environment to inspire each other and to increase the number of spiritual people, so that we can then go out in the world to actually do something beautiful to make people's lives better. So a sanctuary is not a bad thing. No one complains, oh, there's a bird sanctuary there, they're cutting themselves off from society. No, you should let the birds roam free. They should... No, everyone agrees this is a good thing. Because birds are needed, birds are endangered, and in order for birds to increase, they need a safe environment. So in the same way, spiritualists are endangered species in Kali Yuga. Spiritualists, we need more spiritualists to actually increase goodness in the world, and in order for them to increase, they need to spend quality time together, supporting, inspiring, and helping each other. And so when we tell devotees that don't associate with non-devotees, it's not something cultish, it's not something that's meant to just like cut us off from the world, or kind of stop us from thinking or being critical in the way we look at life. But it's just meant to give us some room and some space in order to grow in a more powerful way. So that's just kind of the first thing I wanted to say on this. Let me just stop there for a second and see whether anyone wants to make any comments so far, or questions on anything I've raised so far, just in terms of association and so on and so forth.
Thank you. How can we not get affected if we have to go, for example, at university or work? Don't you get affected from materialist association, like teachers and companions?
Yeah. So this is the first thing, like when we tell people, devotees, don't associate with non-devotees, but we're still telling them, like, stay connected with your families, go to university, go to work. We don't just tell devotees, although we're reading in Shastra all the time, like, don't associate, don't associate. The reality is we encourage devotees, like, yes, you should go and finish your university, yes, you should go to work and do your duty. So how do both things fit together? There's a famous story of the monk and the alligator. I don't know if you know the story of the monk and the alligator, but the alligator, you understand? Alligator, crocodile. It was swimming down the stream. So the monkey shouted out to the alligator and said, hey, I want to also go for a ride down the stream to see the scenery. Can you take me? So the alligator said, yeah, don't worry, just jump on. So the monkey jumped onto the alligator, and so they were swimming down the stream. It was great, the monkey was looking at all the scenery. And then at one point the alligator just stopped in the middle of the river and looked at the monkey and said, now I just want to rip your body apart and eat your heart. So the monkey was thinking, oh my God. So the monkey said, oh, you want to rip me apart and eat my heart? The alligator said, yes. The monkey said, oh, you should have told me that before. I left my heart in the tree down where you picked me up. Can you take me back there? Then I'll pick it up and I'll give it to you. So the alligator took the monkey back, and the monkey jumped onto the tree. And then you can understand he was laughing and smiling and things to that. So it's kind of like that. That's what Srila Prabhupada explained, that as devotees we're associating with the world, but we don't give our heart, we leave our heart somewhere else. What does that mean? That you don't have any genuine exchange? No, you have exchange, but when we say don't associate with non-devotees, we're saying don't associate intimately, don't open your heart, don't accept their desires, their convictions, their opinions, but rather it means we associate, number one, just to get our things done that we need to get done in the world practically. But number two, we also associate with them to help them, to give them, to uplift them, to share with them. So to not associate with non-devotees doesn't just mean to stay physically apart, but it means that sometimes we may be physically together, but we don't take from them, but rather we try to compassionately give to them. Does that help? Yeah. So you have to be with your, with your people in the world, but you try to do it in such a way that instead of you being influenced by them negatively, you can positively influence them like that. Yeah.
My question is, like, sometimes it can also become like a little bit, we can develop this mentality, cultish mentality, like if we don't practice properly and we don't find the higher taste, and at the same time we tell people, the material world is so bad, everything is so, but at the same time we don't give an example. So how to avoid to become like this? Like we say, few people come to us because we don't expect so many people buying diamonds, But then, if we are not, I personally speak myself, if I don't have diamonds, so how to develop this mentality according to our advancement, according to our...
No, it's a very, very good point. One devotee used to say to me, you have to be Kali cautious, but you have to be Krishna conscious. In other words, we have to be aware of the negativity of the world, all of these aspects of Shastra which are explaining why the material world is so bad or so dangerous. But that in itself is not enough. We also have to be Krishna conscious. We also have to be experiencing the higher taste. We also have to have something more positive. People will not stay in this movement just because we keep telling them how terrible it is out there. And sometimes we do that. We just keep saying, material life, material life, material life. But if there's no juice in spiritual life, if there's no community, if there's no love, if there's no relationship, even people don't know, we know that it's not good out there, still they will go. Sometimes people tell me they feel like sometimes their material friends were nicer than their devotee friends. Sometimes in the Krishna consciousness movement we can be so transcendental that we just forget to be kind and nice to each other. Like if you're out there and you got a punctured tire or something and you call a devotee, and the devotee's like, no, I got my rounds to finish, I can't help you, No, that's not very nice. Like, you have to be kind, you have to be... So yes, the first thing is that in order for us to stay in the movement, we also have to develop a higher taste and develop genuine love and community and spiritual happiness here. And the second thing is, if we want to bring people to the movement, it's the same thing. that, you know, more than people coming to this movement because of us criticizing the material world, they'll more be attracted to this movement because it's just a better way to live. Prabhupada once said to Hari Saurikulu, preaching is easy business. Just show people how happy you are. Just show people how happy you are. Then you don't even have to criticize anyone. Even sometimes when Prabhupada, of course, Prabhupada spoke out against philosophies and philosophers and the material world. But sometimes Srila Prabhupada, he also said, it's not that we are against anything. We are for Krishna.
Wow.
We're for Krishna. So it's not that we're just against this, against that, speak out against this, speak out against that. Otherwise, people come to Krishna consciousness for lower reasons. But we want them to come for a higher reason. Like sometimes people practice religion out of fear or frustration. But that's a very base type of religion. We want people to practice spiritual life because they feel some love and they feel some genuine satisfaction. So, and then yes, you're right, that ultimately we have to be examples. The best preaching is preaching by example. Therefore, Sanatana Goswami was glorifying Haridas Thakur because he said some people speak very nicely, but they don't have good conduct. And some people have good conduct, but they don't share, they're not compassionate, they don't go out and help. And he said, you Haridas Thakur, you do both. Therefore, Tumi Sarva Guru Tumi Jagatera Arya, you are considered the spiritual master of all the worlds because you do both. So, if our movement is not increasing in size, if our Sangha is not increasing in size, we can't just say like, yeah, everyone out there is a demon, no one understands the value of the Krishna consciousness movement, it's a sign of Kali Yuga, but you know, there's 3 of us here and we're the ones, you know, that understood it. Out of many thousands of people, only we understand. Krishna says that. No, we shouldn't. We should feel no. We should be doing more. We should be doing more. We should be happier. We should have better communities. We should be demonstrating a better way of life. Then more people would come. So yeah, we could say the Krishna consciousness. Sometimes people ask, if your movement is so great, why is it so small? Then we could revert to that explanation that, yeah, well, when you're selling diamonds, not everyone has the money to buy. We could revert to that explanation, which may be true to some extent. But then we can also look at ourselves internally and say, maybe we haven't done good enough in terms of explaining this and exemplifying this so that people will be attracted. So, yeah, I don't know if that, I kind of just talked about that.
Yeah.
Anything else anyone would like to ask?
Just a reflection, maybe a question also. I guess in the process of becoming a good example, sadhana bhakti, we're still struggling, so we need to defend ourselves from that. We need to give up that association, right? Yeah. So we become a little defensive. It's not that we blame them, but we also know, okay, I want to be with my grandpa, for example, but I know that if I spend too much time with my grandpa, it's going to affect my consciousness. So it seems to me, please expand on that or correct me if I'm wrong, that it's a balance between creating a space for yourself that is safe, that sanctuary, that bhakti sanctuary, and at the same time be compassionate and go out and be. Is that correct? Is that the balance that you have to find? How much you can give?
We have to each have our own sensitivity. In India, there's a sport called kabaddi. Have you ever? You don't know it. Nice. He knows. So, How does it work? You can tell me. It's like there's like 5 people and they're holding hands like this. So they create like a semicircle, and then say you're the person. So then you're like in the middle of this semicircle, and the sport is that you have to touch one of them. But in the process, they can also like surround you. Yeah, like so, you have to tag one of them without being caught.
Okay.
Anyway, you can look it up on YouTube later on. Probably. Right. So material life, like spiritual life, is kind of like that. You're associating with the world. You're trying to interact and contact the material energy, but you're trying to do it in such a way that you don't get captured yourself. In the Mahabharata, you may know there was Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu was the son of Arjuna, right? So Abhimanyu was known as a valiant warrior. Now the Kauravas, they were different formations, military formations. So they had created this very, very complicated formation known as the Chakra Vyuha. Chakra Vyuha was a very complicated military phalanx. But Abhimanyu, he was so expert that he knew how to penetrate the phalanx. But there was one thing that he didn't know. And what didn't he know? He didn't know how to exit. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in commentary on this, he says this is like the preachers of the Hare Krishna movement. Many of them know how to go into like complex environments, universities or the corporate world, or they know how to go in the middle of the material energy and preach. But the question is, they know how to go in, and they might even know how to fight once they're in, but do they know how to come out without getting injured?